Kiowa tribe. I know that's a lot of legal, but it's pretty short, you know, nomination, and so that is an actual real resolution that I will be submitting. It'll go on the floor in April. I'll kind of stand up and give the same reasons that I just gave to those of you here, to the entire Kiowa Indian Council. And if the majority agrees that it's kind of impractical and somewhat unfair to candidates to have this nomination petition, then it would go on a ballot. And then if everybody in the electorate votes in the affirmative, that part would be taken out of the Constitution. So I just kind of wanted to give you an actual, real amendment resolution, proposed amendment resolution that I will be submitting. And as I say, I know it caused problems for the election, or it caused, basically they had to waive and say, okay, this first time, and this election law that was written is also saying that in this June 2018 election, that you're not going to have to comply with that part of the Constitution. But I think actually if it's not workable and it's not practical, the thing to do is to just remove it from the Constitution.
Okay, so Steve, you're going to have an issue.
It's not an issue. It's a resolution.
Okay, a resolution for an amendment to the Constitution.
Correct.
Okay, so the amendments say the request for an election to an amendment says, which is on page 20.
No, the part that I'm quoting is under powers of the Kiowa Indian Council.
Right, you're quoting that part that you want that change, but then the amendment process you're throwing in there, and the amendment process is over here on number 20.
I meant that is also in the resolution. The resolution states that whereas the Kiowa Indian Council is authorized pursuant to the Constitution of the Kiowa Tribe, Article 5, Section 3, Part B. That's the part that gives us the power to propose amendments for consideration. And then later on it says, to be held within 1 month and following the requirements of Article 14 of this Constitution.
Okay, I see. And I need to see that.
I know, I didn't
to look at it. Could you send that to me, email?
I certainly will.
Okay, and I wish when you went to the complex that you had asked Tracy to go ahead and you could have asked us to copy that.
Yeah, I didn't have it on that flash drive that I had.
But let me tell you, with changing the amendment, to make amendment on the Constitution, it sounds like an easy process. You have a vote and you change it. What is different is the vote, first of all, when you say registered voters, if you look at under elections, section 1, on page 14, section 1, voters, members of the tribe age 18 and older shall be eligible to vote in an election. It doesn't say you have to register, but in reality, if you don't have your right address on that form there, you may be in a wrong address, you're not going to get a ballot, and this is a big problem we have in the election commission. I believe my friend here can tell you what problem this is, because you have to have 30% of those people who are eligible. So if we have, say, 10,000, 3,500 must vote. Do I think in the blood issue that could happen? I think very well that it could. If we didn't have, how many ballots have been returned for
the most we've ever got back were like 1,700.
1,700, not counting the ones who just didn't vote.
I'm glad you brought that up, Ms. Plata, because Section 1 of Article 9 states, members of the tribe age 18 or older shall be eligible to vote in election. That doesn't say that they are registered. The very next section, Section 2, voter registration, Part A, the first 3 words in it are voters shall register. voters shall register to vote in the district in which they reside. Those three words, voters shall register, makes it clear that the Constitution says each one of us, as a Kiowa Indian Council member, has to make that choice, has to take it upon ourselves to register. Now, there is different language in this law called the First Election Law of 2017 that says something different than what in the First Election Law of 2017, it is declaring that everybody over the age 18 shall be considered a registered voter. However, you cannot write law that is contrary to what is already in the Constitution. I don't really want to get into that issue right here, but you have been hearing that it's going to take 3,000 people to amend an election. It is my belief that the language is clear in the Constitution. Voters shall register, and then later on, I'll read the whole part. Voters shall register in the district in which they reside. Voters who do not reside within a district shall register to vote in any district, provided that once registered in such district, the voter should not be permitted to change districts unless he or she, those are important words too, he or she. Once again, it's establishing that it is an individual choice for every Kiowa man and woman to register. So there are some that take the position that because of this law, that everybody over 18 is a registered voter, and that's about 9,000 of us, and it's going to take 3,000. I read the Constitution, and those three words, voters shall register, it makes it pretty clear that it's up to each and every one of us as an individual. So it's my belief that the only registered voters are people who have a signature, a card and a signature in Carrie and them's office that says, yes, I choose to vote. There's no language in this Constitution that says the legislature by law can declare everybody registered voters. There's no language, in there. So I believe this assertion that's saying that there's 9,000 registered voters is not a valid assertion. The language is clear. Voters shall register. That means whatever the amount of people, how many people do you have registered where you actually have their signatures in the cards?
We don't count them that way.
Like 15?
What we're going to have to do is voter registration from years past is going to be null and void because we're operating under a new constitution. The election law that was written for the first election says that all members of the tribe 18 and over are eligible to vote in this election. So right now, we don't have voter registration in place. But once this first election is done, I agree with you that the Constitution says we must have registered voters. And I've disputed this with the lawyers who have come forward and we've argued about it. And I'm saying that it's making it impossible to pass an amendment if we don't have voter registration. And at some point, we've got to have voter registration because we have 6,000 tribal members who don't participate in our government. They don't vote. They don't keep their address.
Just as in federal and state elections, there are citizens out there that make the choice that will tell anybody, I don't want to vote.
But this election, our hands are tied on this one. I mean, this coming up election, we're not going to be able to pass an amendment, I don't think. I don't think we're going to get 3,000 voters in our first
what we didn't have
resolution.
What the tribe didn't have in place when this first election law was first presented to the Kiowa people, what we didn't have in place was our court system, our tribal court. And this is a classic example of something that should be decided by the court. It is my belief that if we had had a court in place last year and this election law was brought before that court, they would have ruled it unconstitutional, invalid, and they would have put an injunction on that election until such time as we would be able to comply with what it says in the Constitution. But now we have a court, and I will, I've made it clear to the legislature and the executive branch, and I have something to give to you. But I do plan on challenging the constitutionality of this first election law in our tribal court. because it's too important, and that problem about not being able to make amendments. And I don't want it to be considered adversarial. It's not. This is how a democracy is supposed to work. It happens all the time in federal government, state government. Laws are challenged for their constitutionality. You know, all the time. The president sometimes does something. You see, there's things that the president of the United States done this past year. It goes to court. The court says it's unconstitutional. They go back and figure out something else. So we didn't have that mechanism in place when this law came out. But I think it's very, very important that as soon as the court gets up and running, before this June 2018 election, this is an issue that the court needs to look at and decide. Because if not, what KIC says is right. We're not going to be able to make any amendments. But we have to have our resolutions turned in by February 21st. So I'm turning that resolution in anyway, with all hopes that by the time the June election occurs, or whenever the 2018 election occurs, that the court will have had a chance to look at it, make a decision. Whatever they decide, then we'll go from there.
Well, you know, unfortunately, that's what it takes to make these kind of changes. The Election Commission recognizes that we need voter registration, but we can't go to the court and ask for an opinion. The only way we can get an opinion on it is if somebody files a lawsuit or objects to the election that has happened, and then the court can give us an opinion. So what I see possibly happening is we have our election in June, and then after the first election law is over and done, we go back to the Constitution and say, okay, we've got to have voter registration. We start registering voters in July, and then we have a special election in August or September and revisit the resolutions that were presented initially and could not be passed because of the numbers needed to pass an amendment.
The last thing, I'll say on this subject is I feel it's crucial for the court to do it as soon as possible, because every day or every month that goes by before they make a decision is more things that could be done that could possibly be, if the court rules that law is null and void, how many actions of the past year will be rendered, null and void. So it's very crucial that we have the court here this soon, so that we don't have to go back and do a whole bunch of things over.
Karen, I have a question for you. Renee, I have a question for her. Right now, what the enrollment clerk says to callers when they call about, wanting to know the steps to becoming a voter, the response is just give me your name and address and your tribal number. There's no paperwork to fill out. Yeah. Is that correct?
That's correct. Okay. Right now, it's based on enrollment. If you're an enrolled member, if you're 18 at the time of the election, then you are qualified to vote in that election.
And some of my voters in District 7, they can't quite comprehend that.
We've been so used to voter registration.
Yeah. So why not? I gave them this little form right here that Renee has tonight, in case they change their address.
Yeah.
But Myrna said, I don't need that. I just need them to call me.
Yeah.
So that's correct.
If they've got a correct address, they're going to get a ballot in the mail.
Right.
Anyway, right?
Anyway, yeah.
Would there be any way that the tribe could make a secure website to where maybe somebody could be affiliated with their CDIP number or their social security where they could register? Because doesn't the majority of people that are enrolled don't even live near here?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to push for voter registration, but for right now, we have to comply with the election law, which ends after our elections in in June. And once this election law that time has passed, and we can go back to the Constitution and say, we believe there should be voter registration, and then we'll look into ways of getting, as many people registered as possible. And it's possible that there may be something that we can look into that would make that possible. The whole world do that. So.
And it'd have to be secure, because who are you talking to?
Yeah,
who are you
that's
speaking
exactly the
to?
problem. And that's why we can't have online voting, because you don't know who's on the other side of that computer putting information.
But you if you do any kind of, with the government, you have to register and questions asked, and then when you go back, there's a security that goes in, and only you, if it was something with your social security receipt, only you have that. It's not like you can put it in twice at that point.
Yeah.
Even if someone used yours to vote, if they got a hold of your information, you can only do one person,
but you also need the money.
Yeah, that's it.
That supports that type of endeavor. So that's an issue in itself. I've always believed personally that any person, I believe the Comanches believe this, any person who becomes 18 years old, they are a voter member of the tribe. It doesn't take them an address to become a voting member. People go to war. That was changed a long time ago. Yes, you're only going to get a ballot if you get an address from somebody. But they changed that law many years ago when it was 21, I think, during the Vietnam War. We had all these soldiers, 50,000 dying, and they couldn't even vote. They were 18 years old and under 21. So they changed that. I believe Comanches state that in their constitution. Once you become 18, you're a voting member of the tribe. Whether you choose to do that, whether you choose to make your, if you want to be a voter, you're going to change your address. Now this thing with the district is a little different.
Renee, before we go any further,
yes.
Could everybody introduce themselves and where they live?
Yes, that would. You're good. Where do we want to start? Let's start on the back row here. So we all know each other.
Well, my name is Mark Zatos, but everybody calls me Pepper, and I'm from Apache, Oklahoma.
I'm Joe Powell. I'm from West City. I'm on the KCOA board.
My name is Jules Toad, and I live right up the road.
I'm Steve Smith, and I live under the same roof as Joe.
Cheryl Wolf, I'm from Hobart, Oklahoma. I'm also legislator for District 6, which is up.
Thanks for being here.
Next.
Carlton Alton, and I live in Elgin, Oklahoma.
All right, and your friend?
This is my wife.
Your wife, friend?
And she's Comanche. So.
We still want to know her name.
My name is Melanie Otto.
Okay, how do you do?
How do you?
Go ahead, Karen.
Karen So, I live on Wolf Road right over here across the way.
I'm Carrie Lonnie. I live 4 or 5 miles down the road. This is our home church. And I serve on the election commission.
Thank you.
I'm Nona Tutnose, and I live at Jimmy Creek. And I used to be on the election commission.
That's right, you were.
Kicked you out.
Kick me off.
I'm Jill Peters. I'm from Meers, but I moved far away to Medicine Park.
This is John's wife. John Peters is the Assistant General Manager of the Kiowa Casino at Red River. He's been there since before they started, and he's the Kiowa who is in the executive management team there. This is his wife, who is also Kiowa.
And she owns her own business.
And Miss Jill owns her own business. She used to be with the Comanche Gaming Commission, didn't you? Raider. I'm just teasing you.
I'm Rose Lamavia, and I live out here in the country.
Okay. Thank you for coming, Rose.
I'm Erin. I'm Renee's daughter. This is my son Elijah.
She's the cook.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In this district, right?
Oh, I'm not a member.
She is not on the roll.
That's 45 years I've been waiting. They obviously want me to wait longer.
Oh.
My kids are waiting, so.
Oh, okay.
We won't talk about that. I won't.
Heated discussion. My name is Cindy. You know, Pepper, my mom. You know, Pepper, my grandma. You know, Pepper, everybody. Good meeting. Now, I want to pay my for the booty, my booty shop.
She loves to praise. She's sweet.
My name is Anita Johnson, and I'm from District 5, Walters. But at this moment, my mother, y'all know her, Isla Nanco. She lives at Elgin, and she's 92. So Cindy and I are currently staying with her because she's having a few problems right now. So got to keep an eye on her, and I have a niece that stays with her while I'm gone, and I'm there in the evening time with her. But Cindy and I are sleeping in the same bed, and we don't like it.
Miss Anita is one of your legislators.
And oh yeah, well, I'm from Big River District.
And I'm Modena Waters, District 7 legislator. I live in Ponca City, Oklahoma. And that's a 3-hour drive when I do come to Carnegie. And so far, I find it very satisfying, gratifying, and to work with the legislators and with other people at the conference, the executive branch. I'm looking forward to the judicial branch. And of course, I enjoy meeting all the KIC members at all the different meetings that I go to. And getting to know a lot of people.
Your name is Waters. What Waters? What tribe in the Kiowa tribe, who are you?
Okay, my maiden name was Topah, Toppah. I'm from, of course, my grandpa was Samuela Hare. My grandmother is Julia Tankby, so my mother, of course, is Kiowa too. My dad's Kiowa, so I'm full Kiowa.
Okay, and I'm Renee Plata. I live in Lawton, over here in Lawton. This is my district. Not elected into this district. I was elected to the KBC, and we were kind of grandfathered into the new constitution. So that's why I don't have a district.
And her mother's Dorothy Palmer.
Yes, my mom is Dorothy Palmer, and I come from Choctaw Bill and Claramaco for my grandparents on my Kiowa side.
My name's Davetta Gimasetto Dumbo, and I'm KIC coordinator. I was born and raised around Rainy Mountain, Mountain View, and I live in Chickasha. Been there since I became employed at OU, and as of 2017 I retired, which is now I'm with the Kiowa tribe.
Next.
My name is Mike Turner. I live in District 3 on the other side of Highway 58. You might say Barkover, but anyway, I'm in District 3. And my folks are Gilbert Woodhall Jr. from Saddle Mountain. Grandmother's Nellie Horse. And that's who my kinfolks are. And from Saddle Mountain area. And I have other kinfolks. I'm related to the horse family, and Dr. Bull, all the people there. So I come from a big family, extended family. And I'm also part connected too. I got my connector also.
Yeah. Normally took my sister one day. I drive her anywhere.
He's the chauffeur.
Yeah.
Modena does live way up where the Ponca City. And wherever she is, does come to the complex almost every day. And, I think she has another home over there in Anadarko that she stays in, but
It's kind
I don't think she's seen her husband very much since she's been elected.
Well, the reason I spend a lot of time in Carnegie is I feel the first 6 to 7 months, 8 months is a learning experience, getting to know what's going on. And eventually I'll spend more time out in District 7. But I wanted to mention my mother is Kiowa, and she's from the Wheaton family that goes quite a ways back, and the Settle Blankets, and the Gawking, which is a very common Kiowa name, and on back to Dombey, and also to Johassen, who was her father. So both of my folks have quite a family lineage that is quite lengthy.
Renee?
Yeah, I have a question, Renee.
Oh, go ahead, you first.
Yes.
I was just gonna ask, when somebody runs from a district, say District 4, are the voters in that district only allowed to vote for that candidate, or do you vote for everybody in
No,
the
you
primary?
vote for all your all the candidates running in the district. You can only vote for those.
In your district?
But
Yes.
everybody votes for chairman and vice
But
chairman.
everybody votes for the chairman and vice chairman.
And they run
run
together?
as what I call a tag team, but there's, those candidates, it has to come forth as, you have a slate, basically.
And what about the primary election? Is it the same way?
Well, the primary.
I mean, the general, I'm sorry, general.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because, the primary, you're gonna get the candidates, right?
Yeah,
There's
primary,
gonna
you may
be
have
two.
5 candidates
Yes,
from a district, but
and
in the
then they
general,
go down.
you'll lower it down to two candidates.
That's how the Constitution states it. Everybody doesn't vote for everybody anymore.
So if we only have 2 candidates in District 4, those are the only 2 candidates we can vote for besides the chairman and vice chairman?
Yes, I would say so.
And it's time to start thinking about who's gonna run for this district.
If there's only 2
And your
candidates,
candidate, your districts this time are District 1, Anadarko, District 3, District 4, and the chairman and vice chairman. So you have 3 districts in 2.
That's who we're gonna vote for? 3, 5, and chairman?
3, 4, and 1.
3, 4, and 1.
No, you're not gonna vote for, you'll be voting for 4.
Just
You're-
4.
yeah.
District 4 and 5.
Number 3 is Medicine Bluff. It's called, that's that
Apache
district.
and West.
Yeah, it's over that way. So, that's how it's gonna be.
if there's only 2 candidates, then does that mean it's not necessary for that district to hold a primary? Is it only if there's 3 or more that you have a primary? I mean, to save money, because the top 2 votes go to the general election.
It would went the opposite way on the last election. If there's only 2 in the primary, they didn't move on to the general.
You just kind of had that race there and then there,
And
okay.
then the ones that needed to participate in the general participated.
You could do it either way.
Yeah, you can go either way.
This question kind of led into my question, which is just for fairness' sake, and I'm not saying, Renee, that anybody want to recall you, but, you stated that you're representing District 4, but you're elected to the KBC, so you weren't, formally elected.
I was not formally.
However, for fairness' sake, as long as the 3 of you that are carryovers from the KBC, shouldn't you formally designate yourself to a district fully? In other words,
We cannot do that under the Constitution. We did vote on it to do it.
what I'm saying is
You mean currently?
yeah, Mrs. Johnson is currently answerable to the people of her
She was
district.
voted in.
And if, I'm not saying they would, Anita, but I mean, if she were to do something, terribly that the voters like, they have the power to recall her, correct? Or same thing with Mr. Wolf and Miss Waters. We don't want that to happen. But the mechanism is there for the people of that district. Now, for the three of you that aren't formally assigned to a district, doesn't that kind of put you above, that puts you in a category where if you were to do something that the voters didn't like by saying that you're not formally with the district, you're saying you're not the same as these others who could feasibly be recalled by their district, that it seems that for fairness sake, you and Mr. Kulaw and Mr. Gimasaddle, just for the time you're finishing up these terms, would say, yes, I am in this district and I'm answerable to. In other words, if you're saying I'm not really assigning a district, you're saying I'm not answerable.
No, I'm not saying that. I say I'm always answerable to the KIC, all Congress. But if you, I believe it's addressed.
Steve,
For us, it was put in here.
Steve, I made a motion to do exactly what you described, but it was null and void.
A motion,
yeah, for identifying yourself.
Oh, the districts. Because we did do that.
We had that concern.
We had that concern, but I want to say it's been addressed somewhere in here.
You understand what I'm saying, just for fairness sake?
In other words, if somebody wants to recall me right now, I don't have a district, right?
Yeah.
So you think I can't be recalled?
Not unless you're assigned to a district under the old Constitution.
Well, I can't assign myself, I already know that, to a district, because we did that. We made a motion and we said David's gonna be over in Anadarko, Rod's gonna be from Medicine Bluff, and I'm gonna be in this area. But we could not do that. We did it, we were questioned on it, wasn't valid. So we didn't take the position that we are voted, designated for that district.
Well, like Carrie just asked, who made that determination?
Who?
Carrie asked, who decided that you couldn't do that? Who said you couldn't do that?
I want to say we had legal advice saying that.
Robert Little said you couldn't do that?
I'm saying we had legal advice. Who exactly it was, I'm not sure. But I do not say I represent District 4. Right now, I represent the whole tribe in my mind but I'm no longer the KBC. So there are other areas where it addresses here and there on the recall.
We're going to be covered.
Pardon me?
Let's have the elections in June and have those three districts covered properly instead of having three. I don't know, maybe. Y'all just go ahead and just.
The purpose.
And run again.
Pardon me?
If the district is open. I mean, why wasn't an election held for those three districts that there was no one to cover?
So that's because the Constitution says something different.
And then you have to stagger them. There's a staggering. If you look under the first election, it talks about the staggering of terms. Well, if we all came in at one time and everybody's voting for every district, where would the staggering go? The first election law was in support of that. Do I say we knew everything? I don't know everything right now, but there are different areas. We, not under recall, but impeachment and different things where
what happened?
We could use a power that's given us, but it has to be a unanimous thing. You know, like for the executive branch, for our branch, and I couldn't tell you where that is right now, but I want to say it's addressed for me if I was to be recalled somewhere.
You know what happened?
It could be in one of the laws, the ethics law, and I wish I brought that law.
After I made that motion and it passed, KIC members from District 7 started challenging that.
Yeah.
So that's why
So that's
kind of
where
back off.
I can't say I wasn't elected into 4, you know, because we had And like I said it was legal advice, but I wanna say it really came from District 7, where people, whoever. So I'm not gonna say I'm from District 7, but I'm from District 7. Okay, yes. Yes.
I want to ask you a question about the
Sure.
Constitution, so I get a little bit of clarity on it.
Does that answer your question? Excuse me, a little bit. My mind's going, Steve, too, so I can't always remember, who told me what.
Okay, I wanted to ask you a question. Under the Constitution, it talks about the executive powers of the chairman, the executive branch of the Constitution. It talks about divisions. What are the divisions? Can you explain that to me under the Constitution?
Actually, on the back of this Constitution that our admin sent over, it has the, let me see if I have it in my book. It has, at the last page, it gives, the breakdown of kind of samples of who's under who and who does what. Now, the tribe, the chairman, is supposed to have 4 divisions of the tribe.
Right.
He has not named that. He has not done that.
What constitutes a division? What is that? Is that a committee or?
No, it would be in the employment of it would be in the employment of the people who work for the tribe. So in my mind, you would separate them to say, you know, maybe all your social services under one division, maybe your, you know, your administration under one. But what it says is you pick an executive director. You make an executive director. Well, we don't have money. We all know we don't have money. But in my mind, I would have delegated somebody in, you know, separate the divisions because at least you're trying to follow the Constitution, and then to designate and see if somebody will act as an executive director for that division. But the chairman has not moved on that power. He has. So, and like Steve said, we don't have a court. Our court, is Steve in here? Because the judicial was sworn in last Thursday. I'm working fast as I can. People are calling him. He called me yesterday. We must have the court. He's not concerned on even an office or a building. He needs a desk and a chair. We're gonna make the fee schedule, and I looked at, he sent me the Oklahoma fee schedule, and I said, I'm not charging the Kiowa tribe none of those prices. So, we're going to get CFRs, help the court over there and look at their prices and their forms. He does need a court clerk, and he needs a court clerk full-time to set up and process those people who have issues, which includes me. I have issues based on the executive branch. So people are calling the judge, and he wants to move forward, and I have every intention of trying to help him do that. So does that answer your question, sort of?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have more questions.
Okay.
I don't feel more.
Thank you. Joe Poe is here from the KCOA. He wants to tell you a little bit about some stuff. You can't move?
I can't move and I'll apologize.
Okay,
I'll let her talk first. So, the most important thing for our tribe is that we have enough money to operate. And if we have enough money to operate, then all of this other stuff will fall in place. Well, last year, as you guys recall, we voted on a ballot issue to give the KCOA a sovereign immunity waiver so we could refinance the debt from the Red River Casino. In 2007, we borrowed $87 million to build that casino. That debt has been paid down to $11 million. There's a couple of other loans also that we have to pay our settlements due to lawsuits. So there's an additional $5.5 million that has to be paid back also. So we're currently at about $16.5 million. The $11 million is at 14% interest. So last year, before the Constitution was changed, we voted to get a limited waiver of sovereign immunity. Because of the change of Constitution, that has to be re-voted on. And so we turned in that ballot issue, or the wording a week ago Tuesday, and I heard today from the general manager that the chairman, his attorney is working with the KCOA's attorney. I'm sure we'll get in touch with everyone else to get that ballot issue done as quickly as we can, so it'll go for a vote of the people again. As soon as we get that ballot issue out to an election and it passes, we can refinance the casino, and it'll save us $133,000 a month in interest charges. And the monthly payment to the tribe will increase from $100,000 to $300,000. So that's the most important thing that we can focus on right now. So when you see the election come up and you get the ballot to sovereign immunity waiver, it's to refinance the casino, and the payment to the tribe will triple. And so generally, I'm going to give you an update on some other things that are happening. The hotel should be finished around March 1st. We expect there to be somewhere around a 20% increase in revenues because of the hotel. The casino in Carnegie should be opening March 1st. Once those projects are finished, me and the general manager of the hotel are going to approach our lender, who is currently Luna, and we're going to ask him if we can increase payments to the tribe to $150,000 a month until we can get the refinance done. So that's all the information I wanted to tell you, and if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to ask anything anyone wants to ask.
I have a question, Joe. We know that when we have the April KIC meeting, there's going to be all kinds of resolutions about all kinds of things, people want to change that. Would we think it might be a good idea for the legislature to call for a special meeting of the KIC to deal with nothing but the refinancing that Joe was describing to us? In other words, take that issue and separate it from all of the other things that are going to be going on, and could we maybe have an election simply for that one refinance
That's
issue?
what we're shooting for. We have it all by itself. Nothing else. We've already turned in the ballot issue to Nevada, haven't we? We got it in time. And so the legislature's all for it. The chairman is all for it. All the attorneys are all for it. And all of the Kiowa people are all for it. So
have an election before April.
Before April. And so since everyone's for it, I don't see how it can possibly fail. But we've got to get it passed. I thought Luna was one of the problems. No, Luna isn't a problem. They want to be taken out. They used to be. But starting in September, they said that you can be, that will allow you to be refinanced. So that would they allow since September, they've allowed a refinance.
And this refinance will be bank refinance.
Bank at a 5% interest loan.
Surely they didn't say allow us.
Yeah, they said, well, before, when the hotel was not built, it was built out of cash flow because our lender suspended payments on the loan so that we can pay for the hotel in cash. Then we resumed payments to him in October once we had enough cash to build that hotel.
So as a rule, a loan from a lender is always going to be higher than the bank, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Well, this guy this guy's like an investor. That's basically what it is. It's a one-man job. And we're going away from that to a regular, normal bank.
At the time when they were gonna build the casino, is what I understand is no bank would give the Kiowa tribe a dime.
We were high risk.
They hired Merrill Lynch to seek a lender across the country. Over 200 or 300 people were notified.
No.
Was that what happened?
I'm not sure I was.
That is what happened. Okay, then Luna, I think there were only 2 lenders in the country, private people in the business to make money, would talk to us. And that's how I understand Luna came about, because the tribe, and I don't think we're that far from it right now with as far as our credit goes with the tribe. No bank. In fact, it's a blessing that the KCOA has never missed a payment, that they paid their bills, that we can go to conventional financing. We wanted to do it. They've come to us as legislators. The limited waiver of sovereign immunity was voted for under the KBC. The charter had language in it, all referring to KBC. We no longer sit as the KBC. So for months, this has been an issue with financing to see if it could go forward. We know we need a new waiver from the tribe. Joe is indeed right when he says it's much more money for the tribe. And then just the fact that the casino has done so well, that is amazing. No other business of the Kiowa tribe has ever, besides Burden and the KCOA, along with the casino, built and paid for Burden Casino. We own it outright. No other business that has been started by the tribe has ever survived. Over, how long has it been? 76? The old Constitution? No business that I know of ever exceeded.
We're real good at starting things, but not
Well,
following through.
they fail for whatever they fail for. Basically, I would say the business and mixing business and the politics of the tribe. This is why the KCOA was put in place, so that the tribe can step away from that business and let that business operate. Of course, you want to have a good KCOA. You also want to have a good KGC, our regulators for the casino, because we all know what happened to the Grand Casino. We didn't see a dime of it. I understand it made over $5 million. Nobody, well, there were some people seeing a dime of it, but the tribe equally did not see any profit from that business. Our convenience stores, Burns Flats, our smoke shops never made it. Nothing ever made it. So I have to look and see, in my mind, who is successful and who is not. I understand the chairman no longer wants the KCOA. He has asked us at our table, yes or no.
What's his reasoning for that?
Well, he didn't speak to us. He just sent that message over. We didn't get to ask questions.
What do you think his reasoning is?
To gain control of the casino.
And when that happens,
and if I have to bring this, or my legislature has to bring that important issue to the tribe, because if it's not us, it will be somebody. Does the tribe still want the Kiowa Casino Operating Authority in the picture, so that business and the politics do not become enmeshed, where we're suddenly faced with what we had with the Grand Casino? And that issue, just to let you know, is coming forward.
Can I ask Joe while he's here and while you're bringing up the subject of politics, interfering with our business, especially with social media, there's a lot out there now, and I know that there was a time recently, I was still on the then KBC, when we've always known that for years and years, Hobart was just like bending over backwards. They wanted a casino there. And before I left, the land hadn't been given, but then I understand that there was a time where Hobart gave the tribe a plot of land to put into trust, and that was going on, and that now Hobart is totally off the table.
No, let Ben talk.
Well,
Okay, but then what the other half of that we're hearing is that
we were told that
there's interest in Elgin, in this land in Elgin, and it seems a lot of people are getting upset that things are going on behind our back, but I think there's not really anything for us to worry about, because ultimately the Kiowa Indian Council is the one that has to approve any gaming anywhere. So no matter what behind the scenes maneuvering is going on in Elgin, I'm not sure about the details, but for it to even happen, sooner or later, it has to be brought into the light of day for the Kiowa people. Now, some of the things that's been brought up in Elgin is that the backer, the people that are proposing an Elgin casino, want to bring in an outside development group. Okay, that's it, please.
So, I'm going to talk about Hobart first. Hobart in 2008 was devised by the KCOA, but since there wasn't a government to really help, kind of put on the shelf. But then since as soon as we got a government, we got all the necessary studies done. Hobart, the city of Hobart, did donate 11 acres of where they want the casino inside their town limits. And it's right where they want to have a little convention center and a hotel. And our casino will not be connected to anything, but we're going to have our casino right there in the middle. And it's projected to make a nice chunk of money. You guys have the reports. I don't have to have money. And I have to make sure that I'm not saying anything political. So I'm going to turn this part over to Ben and let him talk about it.
Well, there has been a lot of politics with this, but it was put on hold. Right now, I'm not quite sure exactly why, but until I get a statement, a letter from the chairman saying that it's going forward, then I'll be okay with that. But sorry, I got the little horse throat. But anyway, other than there is a meeting that's going to take place in Washington about the lands that are going to be put in deed of trust. So that 11 acres needs to be put in trust. And so that's what we're waiting on. The holdup is that issue. But why the chairman put it on hold, I'm not sure.
I have a letter to go to the chairman tomorrow in regard to Hobart. Us hearing on January 8th, he told the BIA the KCOA is out of the process. The environmental consulting firm is out of the process. Who else did he tell?
Does he have the authority to say that?
The BIA took that authority. It was not authority, but he did it, and he is the chairman of the tribe. So
is that addressed in the Constitution under his list of authorities?
He has the KCOA is an arm of the tribe. He has certain powers in regard to that. This is why I say this issue of the KCOA must come before the people, because I, every day, am scared to death. I thought he would give, Robbie Armadale was removed as chairman, removed from the KCOA. Hasn't had due process. We don't know why. The letter was very vague to him. He needs the court. He's one of the people calling Judge Henderson Judge Hendrickson told me also last Thursday, there's other tribal members calling in, but the judge had told me he felt like, which is quite logical, we have to have the Supreme Court because there has to be an appeal process. So that took time. Three judges, all Kiowas. We know now Judge Lujan is not doing it. Judge Hendrickson says we can go ahead and move forward. If something came to an appeal, we could possibly put somebody temporarily. But those attorneys who are now on the Supreme Court, they had to go through their works, and Arvo Mithican, I'm not sure of his last name, he had to go through the ethics committee in Washington, so this delayed the process.
And he can't get paid.
He can't get paid,
He's a federal employee,
which is fine.
federal prosecutor.
But they were very honored to do it. Judge Lujan, very busy, works with another tribe. Oh, that heat's killing me. I was cold, now I'm hot. But we don't know with Hobart. The quickest land to get going with the casino, even in Hobart, is Trust. You know, I know that's been talked about over there 5 years ago. There's people willing to sell. You know, I don't know where Hobart's gonna end. I was told, he said there's only 19 people in Hobart, the Kiowas, for jobs. Well, the feasibility study doesn't, you know, I don't know if it even talks about the Kiowas who could get jobs there. The feasibility study has to do with, you know, what's projected. You know, is it a good place to put a casino? It would be well, Shawnee's got that land into trust when Zinke was here last week. It puts a casino further west than anywhere.
I would like to remind...
We go to Hobart, we're the furthest ones. So there's an advantage there that town says they love us. I have my doubts about that from what I've heard in Hobart, although we visited with them one time. I thought, you know, we had a nice visit. Well, they love the casino, but do they love the Kiowa people is what I'm talking about.
I would like to point out one thing that goes back to the powers of the KIC, and it may be our most important power, even more important than making amendments, is that we as the KIC have the power to set policy. So, if the KCOA feels that Hobart is a good, viable project that would be good to the people.
We already have a law right now.
I'm not talking about law, I'm talking about KIC policy, which trumps everything. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. We, as the Kiowa Indian Council, if we vote and we set policy and we instruct the executive and the legislature to follow through with something, you guys would be down. So if Mr. Wolf believes in the Hobart project, if the KCOA believes in the Hobart project, if you can bring your case to the Kiowa Indian Council with a resolution that we decide we're going to set policy, and the Kiowa Indian Council says we want this project to be finished,
move forward, move forward.
Then no executive, no legislature
in
can
all
stand
this,
against it.
And that's a great idea to even put it as an issue or a resolution or whatever. Not whatever, but whatever the proper way is to do that. I would love that. We have a law addressing this. But one thing, the Elgin Casino, what we don't have, we have all the feasibility studies for all these different places. We don't have Elgin. We don't have Elgin's, Matt's idea of, not Matt's, but the chairman's idea of putting a casino at the Elgin exit.
Where at?
Huh?
Where at?
Right at, there's 3 acres that Ryland Revis's sons and.
It's that little white house. That little white house.
So this is 3 acres, but you need more.
How do we a voice or
Little
opinion
White House
against the
right there
Belgian
in town. It's
casino.
on the south side of the
Put it
road.
on the
to
ballot.
the freeway.
However you can.
On the east side.
However you can.
On the
It's
little
not
White
trust
House.
land.
It's not trust White House.
It's a conflict of interest to be buying land from our attorney.
Yes.
For one
Some
thing, yes.
people do believe that.
But then there's 3 acres. In back of that is 50 acres that belongs to the school district. So Ryland suggested we lease that land for 20 years. You know, when we heard about this, couple months ago, I mean, we were supposed to be having this collective meeting to get together with the executive and the legislature. First words out of Ryland's mouth was this project. You know, it wasn't on the business that we needed to discuss. It's this endeavor that they want to do. I understand that they may have an investor. Why do we need an investor? We can get a conventional bank loan. But KCOA, I fear every day he's giving them their walking papers. If they don't act right, you're gonna be gone. So we're trying to make that protection for, we have a law in the charter right now.
Mr. Poe, or you, one thing we're hearing out, you know, that's out in the Kiowa grapevine, is that another part of this Elgin proposal is that the KCOA is not involved at all, and that an outside development company is they're wanting to bring in an outside development company, but our KCOA is our development authority.
Well,
correct?
We don't know anything about the cable. Never been told anything about it.
And that's why they were created.
So they're not even in the picture.
Well, one question I will be asking, and this does go back to politics.
Nobody addresses nothing to the chairman. Nobody has come in and asked him nothing. I don't see any community members coming in. They ask us.
One thing, you know, this is my district. I know all of you people here, you know, some of you for a long time, and this is gonna go back to politics, but there's a question that was never answered to me.
What's that?
And back when I was still, you know, involved, and during that 2-year IBIA case, Mr. Kamalati, who's now Chairman Kamalati, was represented by a lawyer. The lawyer's name was Brian Newman, out of a law firm from Michigan. And for those first couple of months, I was kind of under the assumption, well, he must have made a promise, you know, we'll pay your legal fees whenever we get into office, you know, then the tribe will pay you. But once that thing stretched out about 6 months, I realized there's no way that this Brian Newland was going to be working for free. So the question that I still have not had answered, that hopefully someday before I leave this earth, is who was paying Brian Newland's legal fees for Mr. Kamalati for 2 years? And that is a valid question that's connected to what we're hearing about Elgin. Because if he's talking about bringing in outside investors, if he's talking about bringing in outside development company, is he beholden to whoever paid? Somebody was paying Brian Newland for 2 years. Why would they just jump into Kiowa politics?
Because maybe they thought there was a future in the Kiowa politics. I don't necessarily
well, I'm throwing that out there now.
think that, but Mr. Kamalti, if you all remember, the first KIC informational meeting, Brian Newland was sitting in the first row. After that meeting, Matt brought him into our office, and he made his presentation on being our lawyer. We didn't vote for Brian Newland to be our lawyer. He didn't practice in Oklahoma, so I think that was kind of on the table. Brian Newland now has been elected his own tribal chairman. He's working for his own tribe. Not saying that he wasn't a bright young man. I actually liked him, but I was not going to put him as our lawyer, whether he could practice in Oklahoma. I did not want Ryland Rivas to be our lawyer. We hired Well, not we, I didn't vote for Ryland. But he got in there. We put him on an hourly salary. We now find, after the Constitution, the budget was passed, there's a line item that says $120,000 for legal fees. Okay, we found after the budget's passed, in our budget, executive nor the legislators, neither one of us had a line item for legal fees. We hired Ryland as a hourly rate. Did not agree with his billing. I paid one bill for him because he really wasn't doing nothing for us. But it saved us money. We never used any legal monies because when I was treasurer, I knew that for those till March's budget. But in the current year, our budget now, Matt has said he owns all the budget, all the money except the legislature. Since we don't have that line item in there, he's not paying our lawyer. So, and I look at this as a shared part. Pardon me?
Y'all agree with this budget, that y'all were able to, modify it yourselves, and basically.
We did, but.
Take his out and then put it in there and be voted on by the people?
I didn't take, what do you mean take his out? His legal fees?
No, put it, no. It's right, you have to Matt not pay it when you guys, all your legislators have the opportunity to go and determine if you guys wanna put Matt's budget on the ballot. And if you didn't agree with what he had, you guys had the right to modify.
You know what, when he presented his budget, I took about 85% of his budget. We refused his first budget for the tribe because they didn't have the burden money in it. I questioned that. They didn't identify the judgment funds. We voted on them in March. No monies of that 1.5 million have ever been drawn down. I haven't allowed it.
I think what Jewel is saying is that isn't the legislature have the ultimate, the authority that whatever budget finally does make it onto ballot for the KIC to approve, don't you guys have the final say on that budget that goes on the ballot? And
we do.
And then once the KIC votes on it, it's no deal, right?
Okay, so we did, and we rejected his budget, but we used part of it. Okay, did I know the line item under the proposed budget that said 120,000? He turned around and hired Ryland under the contract 10,000 a month, which takes up that whole 120,000. We didn't authorize that contract. Any contract he signs, he got to come through us. He didn't authorize it. So now we're left owing our lawyer all this money. We don't have it. We need another budget modification. We thought about doing one. Of course, we have to identify money, which we have identified some money. And we thought about putting that issue of the sovereign, the waiver we need for sovereign immunity.
But Jewel, we can modify the budget.
Right, but when you read that before you put it onto the ballot, you should have been able to catch that discrepancy.
No,
it wasn't
a discrepancy.
It was all under one whole caption of like administrative.
So probably
the legal services are for the tribe.
We're gonna have to
separate it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, I could take the budget right now, get a modification, take that and say 60,000 is his, 60,000 is ours, whatever it is. Or
and then the KIC would have to approve it.
They'd have to approve it. So, but in the whole process, he hired Ryland without the authorization of that contract. So this is something before the judge, along with 500 other things that have been done. What is priority? You gotta, the judge thinks he's only gonna be here once or twice a month. I don't know.
Gonna be able to start rolling like immediately? I mean, how long?
I already said he needs a court clerk full time. We feel like we have somebody we could put in there. we need the forms, and we need the fees, and he said he needs a desk and a chair. He can meet right in our office, you know, hold a court. So I feel like trying to get it, because that's one reason we rejected his budget. He put absolutely 0 in the judicial, 0 in the law enforcement. Then I only put a little bit, 52,000 in each one to get it started. But he still continues to say we can operate at CFR. I have a legislative order that for the BIA, when we meet Thursday, we're gonna approve to tell the BIA we have a court, and we're gonna take that court, because they're not gonna do it. I don't think he wants the
Because
court.
that was the whole Constitution was all about, was for us to have a recess efficient in the court system. So you're telling me that our chairman doesn't understand that our chairman actually thinks that we can go to
Yes,
our court?
that's exactly what
I don't know if he doesn't understand it or doesn't want it. I would dispute.
Well, you should have thought about that before you okayed it to go to Washington, because it was in there, it was stated in there, in that Constitution.
I don't think he ever read it.
I don't think
he ever read it, to tell you the truth. Even the original Constitution, I never seen him, you know, access it, have it by his side, hold it, put it in his purse, his pants. I never seen him read even the first one. I'm sorry, Mr. Turner, go ahead.
That's all right, that's why I asked the question, do we have a treasurer?
He has made a nomination. He made one nomination. We asked to confirm her. We have a right to confirm her. They did not want to do that. But then I wrote him a letter about the candidate, and we have a right to confirm. And she didn't show up at the confirmation, and she now works for us in the finance department. That position is $50,000. I hesitate to give anybody $50,000 that has no finance background. She had a certificate.
We now have another.
Okay, we have another candidate.
Another thing too is, you know,
we need that position, but
you really need that position, because not only that, you might have to do an audit on that budget, expenditures on that budget to ensure that they're being expended.
we're not to that audit yet, Mr. Turner. He's still working on 2014, and that's cost a fortune too.
I thought the National Gaming Commission required us to have a KCOA.
It's in the Luna inducement agreement.
So
we don't have.
So before we opened the Red River Casino, when we reapplied for a gaming license, the National Indian Gaming Commission mandated we have an independent operating authority in our pre-opening agreement.
So that we could.
For that one time.
It was for that one time. Jim, of course, believes that that's expired, but it hasn't. I don't know if it hasn't sure, because I haven't gone and seen it. I thought it was still in place, but I don't know. So as far as the information that Jim reported,
we still have it.
Is he in favor of continuing KCOA?
Well, I don't think that don't even want to answer that question, because
I would say yes.
Yes.
Were you talking, Aaron? That Mr. LaForte would be in favor of the KCOA?
So we absolutely need a KIC resolution saying that we want a KCOA.
All the people I talk to want that, but then there's other people